Hello, everyone, and welcome back to War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. That's right, you get a double dose of War of the Stars this week. Aren't you guys so lucky? My name is John Tully. We're coming to you as always from deep within the Outer Rim, far beyond the watchful eyes of the Galactic Empire. As always, as I said, my name is John Tully, and joining me is my co-host for this week, Mr. Garrett Jones. And we are ready for part two, aren't we?
Yes, we are. So the last episode we covered John's top 10 list. There's some crossover there. We'll get to that in just a bit.
Yeah.
We have my top 10 list for this episode. And as always, next week we're going to have Will coming back. He's doing his own thing right now, probably spying with some Bothans. Who knows? Hopefully those Bothans don't die.
It's always dying on this.
I know, right? And John's going to be on vacation. He's going to be enjoying some well-deserved time off. So Will and I will be taking the helm. Hopefully we don't steer this ship too far off course.
I expect next week when I come back, I expect our next episode to have 500 views.
I sure hope. Hope that would be great.
That would be, yeah.
Not with my face for radio. So we're doing my top 10. We're talking starships. Initially I thought we were going to be talking about just vehicles in general, hence the reason why I'm wearing my ATA t-shirt. However, we're mainly talking about starships.
Sorry, I had to put that in. The big controversy.
I know, right? It's the @AT. All right, so I'm gonna share with you guys from my screen going forward, and so the first ship on my list. This is my number 10 pick. I made a comment in the last episode about liking Corellian vessels, and my number 10 pick is Dash Rendar's Outrider from the Shadows of the Empire. I loved this ship. I thought it was so cool. I mean, it's reminiscent for a couple of reasons. I mean, it's got a very similar cousin look to it, like it does with the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
Obviously, the capsule's on the far right side.
Yeah.
And I remember from the toys, it had this ability where you could theoretically make it switch and flip. But I don't remember if in canon that, or at least in the story, it could do that. The other thing that's reminiscent for me is growing up watching Star Trek: The Next Generation, which I know it's the lesser franchise. It's kind of reminiscent of some of the starships from Star Trek, with saucer-like structure at the core, and so I like this design. I thought Dash Rendar was a cool character. This seems like something he would totally use. And the nice thing I like about it is that while it does have escape pods just like the Falcon should have, theoretically, if it was designed or jerry-rigged just enough, that whole capsule could be jettisoned from the rest of the ship as an escape capsule.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of a neat effect. So that's my number 10 pick. And I thought it was cool. I love the book. I love the graphic novel. Unfortunately, this thing got blown up during the events of the Shadows of the Empire saga. So, Dash Rendar, may he rest in peace.
Yes. R.I.P. Dash, one with the Force.
All right. So it won't let me switch just yet. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this one. My next one, should have put them into a list where I could just like play them automatically.
Yeah, I should have too. That would have made this a whole lot easier. We're learning. We're learning, folks. We're learning. This is our first time doing something like this, so give us some grace.
Here is my next one.
Oh, the Ghost.
Yes, I love the Ghost. I like the fact that it has its own little jet pod on the back. It makes for a great cargo hauler. Again, Corellian in its design, with those docking rings. I mean, we talked about it in length during the first half of this listing. Yeah. So I don't think we need to say a whole lot more.
Well, I like one thing I didn't mention. I like you said, how it's basically two ships in one.
Yeah,
Like you can separate and just got a completely different another ship in the back. I think it's like back here. I can take off and fly and do its
absolutely.
own thing.
It's and I like how versatile it was in the
Yeah.
series. So that's my number 9 pick. My my number 8 pick is going to be again, it's going to be a little bit obscure, especially if you're not as familiar with um, Shadows of the Empire. But my number 8 pick, you guys are going to love this. This is Prince Shizor's Virago. This is his personal shuttle fighter craft from Shadows of the Empire. And I absolutely love the design of the ship because it's so unique.
It's alien. It's very alien.
Yeah, it is. And it's like at first, like I didn't know exactly how it was supposed to look, which was up and what was down and all that. But really the neat thing about this is just you won't be able to tell. I mean, it could, like, from the design, it could just be a piece of scrap metal floating in the debris.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like the perfect bounty hunter ship. This is the perfect assassin ship, whatever you want to use it for.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Prince Shizor used it, very versatilely. But I love the design of this because it's so different from anything else we've ever seen. Your thoughts?
It's like, I mean, I said like when I first saw it, I'm like, yeah, it looks very, very alien, which is, I think, is very cool. Most everything in the Star Wars universe has something that you look at it and you could say, like, okay, that somewhat makes sense. That kind of, this just looks like very, very alien, very out there, very, very cool.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. The more I look at it, it's, and again, like I said last episode with the TIE fighter, when you're dealing with stuff in space, stuff doesn't have to be aerodynamic. It doesn't have to make sense from our point of view. If you're dealing with alien cultures, this might make perfect sense to an alien culture. So yeah, I mean, I keep looking at it like wanting to tilt my head and be like, what does it look like this? Is it supposed to be like, is it?
Absolutely. And it's one of my, I think it's one of my, it's so cool. Unfortunately, again, because of phasing out of previously considered canon, Shadows of the Empire no longer exists in canon. But there's still a lot of other really cool ships out there, and so we're going to be talking about some of them. And so, like I said, we have some crossover, but one ship that is not a crossover for us is the Slave One. And this one, like the first time I ever saw Slave One, it blew my freaking mind because it had the vertical takeoff and landing that you saw with a lot of starships, but then it rotated. It boggled my mind. I'm like, how does that work? And so, like, one of the things I thought was really cool about it is, I mean, like, while we got a lot of, like, if you look through the Dark Horse comics, there's some interior shots that they've drawn, artist renditions of what Slave One looks like on the inside. I thought that was really cool. But the best example that we got was in Mandalorian season 2, when everyone's loaded up on Slave One, ready to go charging into Moff Gideon's ship.
Sure. Yeah.
And you get to see what it's like how do people sit in that? What's the pilot seat like? How many people can it hold on board? Because it's a fairly good sized ship. It should be able to transport at least half a dozen people easily. And so, I mean, it's another really iconic ship, and I thought it was this really neat design.
Oh yeah. I mean, this barely did not make the list for me. This would definitely be an honorable mention for it.
So why didn't it make the list for you?
I don't know. I think it came down to there was ships that I just liked more. I mean, that's just basically what it came down to. That like there were ships that I just like because I could have easily added so many other ships, but it was just like I had to come up with 10, only 10. Cause I could have done like, okay, these are my top 10. Now let's start with my tied for 10th place is this one, tied for 9th is this one, tied for and I mean to be honest, and I've never been a big fan of the Boba Fett character.
Mm.
I think Book of Boba Fett did a little bit to help kind of alleviate that.
Yeah.
But for me, and I made the joke, in the original series, Boba Fett had like 6 lines of dialogue, one of which was a Wilhelm scream. If that. But I mean, it is a cool ship, and like you said, seeing it in the Mandalorian was really cool. And seeing the sonic charge drop.
Yeah.
And you're just waiting for it. You're just sitting there. My wife was watching it, and I'm just like, wait for it. Here. We're like, oh, that sounds warms my soul.
Yeah. It was really neat to see it back in action again after almost 20 years.
Oh yeah.
It was great. So my number 6 ship, you had the Interdictor. Mm-hmm. Mine is the
Eclipse class
the Eclipse class Star Destroyer. This one is so iconic for me because while it still keeps that same traditional design for the Star Destroyer, that triangular. I mean, this is like a super Star Destroyer, like the Executor on freaking steroids. Yeah. Because I mean, you look at that prow as it drops down and then curves back towards the belly of the ship. And I mean, this thing's a freaking city.
Yeah.
I mean, and not only that, but the whole thing was painted jet black. You could not see this until you're right on top of it.
Yeah, they're able to do cloaking technology without doing cloaking technology.
Yeah, and I mean, with the lights the way that they are, the way they're positioned, with the black coating on the hull. I mean, you could be staring right at it and think you're just looking at distant nebula. And it's so imposing as a ship because you've got just because it's oh man, I really wish we had seen these on screen. This would have been cool.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's reminiscent of the dreadnoughts from that were being searched for in the Thrawn trilogy.
Yeah.
Not the same design, obviously, but it has that really terrifying, very intimidating design to it.
Yeah.
So that's my number 6. My number 5 is going to be the TIE Interceptor.
Ooh, again, this was one that almost made my list. I wanted to keep because I could have put all the TIE fighters on, all the TIEs on here, really. But yeah, this came very close to making my list too. I love the TIE Interceptor.
The reason why I like this one is it feels a little bit more sleek. It feels more like the Empire's response to the maneuverability of the X-Wing.
Yeah.
Because not only do you have the forward cannons on the capsule, you also have guns on each of the wingtips.
Yeah.
And so you add more firepower. Plus, you've got your photon torpedoes.
Yeah.
And so when I would play Star Wars Battlefront, because I only got the first one back in 2015, it was a Christmas gift. And given that it's an EA game, I tend not to really play EA because they will microcharge you and microtransaction you for every nickel and dime you've got.
Yeah.
And I prefer games that have a campaign or have an actual storyline. The game doesn't have that. But of all the game types, I liked the flight simulator games where you could play as either an X-Wing or an A-Wing for the Rebels, or you could play as a TIE or a TIE Interceptor for the Imperials.
Yeah.
And whenever I was playing Imperial, I would go with the TIE Interceptor because it was a little bit faster, a little bit more maneuverable, and you can gain momentum on your target much easier.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to say, if you ever get a chance, the original Battlefront 2, not the new Battlefront, the old version,
Yeah.
it's still one of the best Star Wars games, and that was the first one of the Battlefronts to do like a flight. Wasn't like a true flight simulator because it's not first person, but it's still. And that one you can fly all of the ships except for the B wing. You can fly the rebels. You can fly the Y wing, the X wing, the A wing, or a transport. Because you can actually transport. You can actually get in and take a bunch of troops to the enemy ship and transport there. For the Imperials, you can fly basically all the TIE fighters: TIE fighter, TIE interceptor, TIE bomber, and again transport. You can fly the any of the clone ships or any of the ships of the separatist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never got a chance to play that game.
It's
I
really
didn't
good.
come into gaming until
Yeah.
like 2007, but yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's definitely I still have it. I still have my old PS2, and every once in a while, I still break out Battlefront 2 and play it. It's definitely worth it. I think it's interesting that none of us have. I mean, there's one. We have Imperial ships. We've had Rebel ships. We've had ships of you know, the like
legacy ships.
legacy ships. We have yet to have any ships from the. We even had some Clone Wars there of the Separatists.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, I mean, most of the ships that are being used by the Separatists are things that we would have seen in other cultures as already. Like,
yeah.
Well,
I have to admit, I did like the vulture droids. Those were kind of intimidating looking.
Yeah, they were. I thought those were pretty cool.
Yeah. And another one that could have made my list, and I'll let you get back to this, is that I really like, and looking back, I'm like, why didn't I put this on there? Why didn't I put this on there? Is the Naboo cruiser.
Yeah.
That is just sleek looking.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All that. The only thing is, I would hate to be the guy who has to do the maintenance and the washing on that because Chrome is a bear.
Yes.
It is not fun to clean.
All right, you're on number 5. 4.
So let me see here. My number 4 pick is the X-Wing fighter.
Oh, yes.
And the reason why it's so low on my list isn't because I dislike it anymore. It's just when I was thinking of ships, I was thinking of things that just kind of stand out to me. And as iconic as the X-Wing is, and I love it, don't get me wrong, there are other ships that I think are really are much more iconic for me, or they're just cooler. Like, because X-Wings, there's so many of them, but other ships, there's only like one type.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. And so to go from like the TIE Interceptor to the X-Wing, which are both in my top 5, they're both very maneuverable craft. But these were things that were manufactured, in mass. Whereas most of the other ships are very unique to their design.
So, do you know the in-canon story of the X-Wing and how the X-Wing came to the Rebels?
I remember there's a version called the Z-29 Headhunter, which does not have the S-foil.
Yeah, that was expansion. The original. That was original. So, and I think they still have this in canon. I don't think they've changed it. But initially, the X-Wing was designed by the Incom Corporation as the next generation Imperial fighter. It was initially supposed to be an Imperial fighter, but most of the heads of the Incom Corporation turned and went to decided to
back the alliance,
and they took with them all the designs of the X-Wings. And so that's how the X-Wing came to be under the Imperial, or not Imperial, but under the to be the main rebel ship.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, because you look at history and throughout the history of the world, warfare, people are going to pick sides. Companies are going to pick sides.
Yeah,
and
in the
either way, they're going to make money.
And the original canon, what happened was shortly after that, because what was happening was all these corporations were being quote unquote nationalized. And so you had like Senior Fleet Systems and I can't think who built the capital ships. Oh, the Quat Drive Yards. They are all being nationalized by the Empire, and the income was still an independent corporation, and they are being pressured by the Empire to nationalize too, and they didn't want to, so they basically turned in back to the Alliance. So that's how the T-65 got to be. And I like how they've changed it from throughout the series. You can see it, change from the one we see in that, here to what we see in the newer X-Wings. Slightly different.
Slightly different. They're a little bit more sleek.
Yeah.
But yeah,
a little bit more powerful too.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason why this one's so iconic for me, and why it's in my top 5, is because I grew up in the Top Gun era.
Yes,
and it's this is the galactic equivalent of the F-14 Tomcat.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, who doesn't want to hear, like we talked about in last week's show, of flying this? Who doesn't want to hear, lock S foils in attack position?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. All
so
right.
My number 3 pick is, let's see if you can identify this ship.
Oh, I don't know if I can. It looks kind of TIE Fighter-ish.
Yep.
It looks Sith.
This is the Rogue Shadow from Star Wars: The Force Unleashed. This was Starkiller's ship.
Oh.
Piloted by Captain Juno Eclipse. And one of the things I love about this ship is not only is the design and how sleek it is, but how chaotic it looks. Very threatening, very aggressive, and it
almost looks like it's going to turn into a transformer.
Yeah, it kind of has that look.
It's going to be like.
It has that look. So obviously the cockpit is in that central capsule.
Yeah.
But what's cool is when it goes into its landing mode, the pylons on the sides actually will rotate to point vertically. And it's got some really neat effects. Like it has cloaking capabilities, shielding. Obviously, the left wing, I guess if you can call it that, operates on the same capacity as the solar sails on the TIE fighters. There's a similar premise, and if I remember correctly, and I'm looking this up right now, let me see if I got it correct. Rogue Shadow, Star Wars. The design, it's a single pilot. You can have up to 8 passengers. It's a standard transport. Let's see here. Trying to see who built it.
It looks like it'd probably be Senior Fleet, because it looks like a very Imperial.
Yes, it is built by Sinar Fleet Systems. The design was based on Darth Maul's Sith infiltrator, the Scimitar. But they made some additional designs to it, and so there's a landing ramp, there's a common lounge, the cockpit. There's a training room on board, specifically for Star Killer. The pylons have cannons on them, so so at the ends, you've got there's cannons on the front of the ship.
Right.
Then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 additional cannons mounted on those wings, and it is brutal how effective the ship is. It's super maneuverable, and it was the design of it is just so cool. It's so unique because again, that's been one of my focuses has been on these more unique designs.
Yeah.
My number 2.
All right, number 2.
Number 2 is the Razor Crest.
Razor Crest, yes.
In fact, up until January, when I had to buy a new car, I was driving around the silver Audi SUV, and my son and I we called it the Razor Crest. So like I would back out of the driveway, he'd be sitting in the center of the back bench seat, I'd be driving, and I'd be like, okay, say Razor Crest go, and he'd say Razor Crest go, and then I'd hit the accelerator, because I was Mando, he was my baby Yoda.
Nice. I like
yeah,
that.
he's my little buddy. But I love this ship. I think it's so cool that, like, again, the chrome plating is really neat. This feels like it's something that would have been taken right out of a Naboo Star Systems design, especially with the chrome, with the way the engines are designed. But I like it. I thought it was really cool because a part of me, like, as soon as I saw it, it reminded me of Tailspin from the Disney Power Hour.
Yes, Tailspin.
And so, like, that's all I'm like, this is the Sea Duck.
This is the
in space.
Yes.
And so I loved it.
Oh, I can't unsee it now.
Yeah. And so this is my number 2 pick for obvious reasons. I've got 2 different Mandalorian ships on. Well, not Mandalorian. They're Mandalorian ships. Ships operated by Mandalorians. And then so that's my number 2. My number 1 pick, of course, is going to be the Millennium Falcon.
Could it be?
Because I've been cherry picking all these very specific designs. I like this one because, just like you said when we're talking about your number 2 pick, which is the same ship, it is like grown men will cry and weep the first time they see it at Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
And I hope at some point I'm one of those people.
Me too. Me too. I've already warned my wife that I will cry. I don't care. I will cry.
Yep. And so I love the Millennium Falcon. If I could, I would design a house to look like this on the inside. Like my man cave will look like the lounge area.
Nice.
Yep. So that is my those are my top 10 vehicles, starships specifically.
All right.
So you ready for wrap up?
I am ready for wrap up. Garrett, why don't you tell the people out there where they can find you at?
So you can find me at on Instagram and Twitter at GKJ_publishing. You can find my YouTube channel, GKJ Publishing. As well, I just wrapped up season 4 of my vlog series with a great set of author interviews throughout the entire month of August, and I will be starting season 5 in October. You can also find me at my website, archivesofthefivekingdoms.com. Check out my books. Hopefully you'll buy my books, but also I want you guys to support what we do here with War of the Stars.
Yes.
John, why don't you tell them about that?
All right. Well, you can check us out wherever fine podcasts are heard. Just type in War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. If you want to get a hold of us, the best way to do that is through email. Email us at warofthestars1@gmail.com. That is also our Twitter handle. We're on Facebook. Just search War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. Also on Instagram, War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. To search those wherever, basically anywhere social media is. You can check us out, our Spreadshirt shop. Link will be in all our social medias. Click it, buy our stuff. Again, as I said before. Oh, remember to like and subscribe on YouTube. Again, War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. Just look for the cool logo behind me, and that will be where you can find us at. As always, remember, this is not just my Star Wars. This is not just your Star Wars. This is our Star Wars. Until next time,
May the Force be with you.